Hi, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to day 27. I'm going to sort of breeze by the t shirts today because I am wearing a polo shirt. Today, I had a job interview, and the t shirt is hidden. It's just a good luck t shirt from Voice Play. So, I was going to get into it. Today ended up being about something I find very interesting. Sometimes progress arrives before identity updates. Now, what I mean by that is this: you may already be improving, you may already be more capable, you may already be doing things better than you once did, but somewhere in the mind is an older version of the story still playing. And today gave me two very different reminders of that. My first session today, as always in the morning, was Be Prepared, today serving as the primary lane. Interestingly, it began before the official session began. I came in this morning wanting to test whether preserving the natural morning state of my voice would change the baseline. When I'm laying in bed when I first wake up, I've got an A1 without a doubt, and I can usually hit an F1. So I approached a pre-calibration take with as much neutrality as I could manage. I didn't talk. I didn't warm up. I didn't want to chase any low notes. I just wanted to just perform it, but hoping that my morning voice would enable things. Okay, so just reduce variables, stay relaxed, and listen. Most of the lower notes in our pre-calibration take arrived the way they often do first thing in the morning. A little dry, a little raspy, and a little quiet. Pretty much normal. In the middle of the piece, one A1 did actually arrive. And it was clean, it buzzed, it stood out. Now, I can't really explain how that happened. Maybe the stars aligned, maybe cats and dogs were living together, maybe some butterfly flapped its wings in Tibet. I honestly don't know. But the important part was not one isolated note. The important part was the reminder that that capability does exist somewhere inside me. You can't unsay that you can do something, or you can't unsay that you did something. You did it. You can't undid it. So the question may no longer be, can it happen? The question may be, how do I let it happen more often? To me, that's a much better question. So then I went into calibration. Little warm up, little reset. 146, my calibration take, was encouraging in a quieter way. It was clean, controlled, musically solid, nothing really flashy or dramatic. It just was reliable. I'm learning to respect reliability more and more. Some progress really looks exciting for a moment, but other progress, it keeps showing up and can actually be built on. I know which one I'm beginning to trust more, but the bigger development in that take may not have been technical. It actually may have been a new theatrical plateau. I found a new emotional reading in the character. It actually produced an audible sense of exasperation. And I've been trying to, I could feel the emotions. I knew that they were in there, but on playback, they just didn't carry. And today, I could tell that the character was exasperated when they said the line. That matters because once a performance stops being notes and phrases, the piece changes. The character isn't just delivering lines, they're reacting, responding, living inside the material. And I'm beginning to think more theatrically due to the immersion. I'm not forcing expression. I'm not adding any acting on top, but by spending enough honest time inside that piece, that reaction begins appearing on its own. I will take a quick digression. I am a Patreon for Cesar de la Rosa of Voice Play, also his private Patreon. He has a group chat for his Patreons, and I managed to sneak in a comment that I wanted to thank him for being a very helpful motivation in immersing in my practice of Be Prepared, and he was tickled by that, so that was just nice to get out of my system. So let's go on to the next one. 147. This is the performance version of the morning. It's the kind of take that if I do it right, that dopamine rush comes where I really enjoy what just happened. And Be Prepared begins on 4 hums. It's very similar to the Disney version. What's really interesting is everybody hums together on a note. So you get this really dark chord. And it's really beginning to take the shape as an alignment ritual now. It's a way of centering my voice, my focus, my character, all of that before the lyrics really swing into place. The one line I talk about a lot because it's so prominent is, "You won't get a sniff without me." Or you won't get a sniff without me. I can remember it when I'm singing it, not when I'm speaking it. Something connected on a higher level today. I said, "You won't get a sniff without me," and my fist jumped up and clenched. And it really wasn't a voluntary motion. It wasn't tension, stress, strain. It was me feeling the full body emphasis of what I was trying to communicate. So there's voice, there's intention, and now physicality all coming in together. And that really means something to me because it suggests that the performance side of me is not being cautious. It's, in the case of Scar, walking up there with teeth bared. It wasn't a flawless take. I don't think I've hit one yet. Lots of little imperfections. To be honest, when I did hit the line, "You won't get a sniff without me," I hit it hard enough to peg the meter and remind me that Scar can still overreact a little bit. Okay, fair enough. But overall, it was a strong morning. And I did get the dopamine hit and happily went off to do the rest of my daily things. Second session of the day, Boulevard, as a secondary. Now, normally, Boulevard lands later, but I had a really ugly and crazy afternoon that included a job interview. So I quietly moved the work a little earlier while I had the chance. And that may have actually been a little bit of progress, too, because the take that came out of it was exactly the kind of useful work that doesn't need to be flashy or to matter. The overall rendition of that first take late in the morning was solid. The energy landed in a comfortable middle ground. All the notes were right, and I didn't really have to reach for any of them. All of the upper notes were the correct notes, and they were just where I needed them to be. So that take just simply felt good to do. Let's see. When I break that one into sections, which I like to do, section 1 is showing more stability. I'm still not getting quite the color I want, especially on the sustain that I want. Section 2 is balancing in volume, but for the first take today, it had some of that pitch movement. But, that's still working on that. I kind of put everything as it could have been nerves. It could have been wild dingoes. Maybe Jacobasalope season had just opened. I don't know again, but I noted it. Section 3, which is the chorus, that was an interesting lesson in energy management. What I had originally started doing when I found that note was punching the first two notes and the rest of the line lagging behind until I punched the next two beginning notes. And then I eventually got it so the punch was not so hard and the rest of the line came up a bit. Well, today, the first two notes of the chorus felt punched. Then the rest of the line dropped in level. But when the next line came up, it stayed there. I didn't re-punch. And that level was a little low, a little quiet. So there were two things that possible here. Well, many things, but these were the two I thought about. Either it only felt like a punch and I overcorrected downward, or it really was a punch and I overcorrected. I know they sound similar, but it's a question of was it a punch or wasn't it a punch? And that distinction for me at this point really does matter. Sometimes the issue isn't fixing, especially on the spot. It was trying to take in what happened and then diagnosing after the fact what was going on. Section 4 did something also rather interesting. It's been finding cohesion, but there's been something raising the hair on the back of my neck for a while. And I think today I kind of found a way to define it. And that was that the fourth section actually sounded a little drunk. A note would land okay, but then sort of drift slightly flat at the tail as I walk. And the interesting thing was the next note would come right back where it was supposed to be. So instead of going, I walk, it would go, I walk. And that was interesting, weird, and many other things that I'm chewing on. So everything was wandering, but everything was starting in the right place. So I think it has less to do with notes and more about how I ride through that part. Yeah. Sorry, just sort of dazed off there in thought. But the biggest moment of the Boulevard session happened almost by accident. The way I run, I have 3 tracks. I have a karaoke track, I have a release track, and my audio track. When I record, I have the release track running, so I hear the original vocalists, who pretty much at this stage still be a crutch. When I do a playback, I switch that one off so I can just hear the backing music and my voice. Today, when I started my playback, I forgot to mute the release track, so the actual singer's voice came through. And in the bass gang, starting out Boulevard, it's Marwan. And when the playback came on, I basically heard Marwan and I coming in together. And what really struck me was they kind of sounded similar. So I have to back up. Shortly after starting practices, and this is now going on about 2 months maybe, I have this belief that's been basically walking along with me. And that is, from day to day, I am improving, but I am still nowhere near the quality required to sing with these voices at that level. I listen to it and I'm like, I'm just not a singer of that caliber. Hearing both sounds together, I was honestly surprised, because while I've been trying to find a color of my voice in section 1 that I felt sounded better, I was surprised that the color of my tone was actually similar to the color of tone of Marwan's. I mean, it was his voice, my voice, but the fact that they were so close, that was something. That was really taking me aback. But I need to clarify. I am not taking that as a victory. I am not saying, aha, I have arrived. What I'm saying is it's evidence that I need to reconsider how harsh I am on myself, how much I am not treating myself fairly. I may be completely outdated in my belief. And that may be one of the strangest parts of progress. Sometimes reality improves before perception and confidence. So, what do I think about today? What was it really about? So, progress is happening. I've kept that in my head, that it's small, it's inch by inch. Even when it feels like it's going backwards, it's a learning process. But the mind has not truly accepted that it is progress of demonstrable value. Skill may be improving before the identity catches up. Evidence may be available before belief adjusts. And I guess sometimes the next stage of growth is not learning something new. Sometimes it's allowing yourself to recognize what is already becoming true. And that is very gratifying. I actually will probably spend the evening going over a few takes and just trying to feel where it really feels. See if I've been too hypercritical. But that's how my very long and busy day has been, which, by count, that closes up day 27. I will be back tomorrow. I can't say about Friday yet. That is still the day I am out for mild surgery, but I have tomorrow. I will see you then. Thanks for showing up or following or viewing or whatever you are doing that is keeping you in contact with this journal. And as always, later.